Hello, golfers. This social media post is about Tiger Woods, a post Zozo Championship post, if you will. A lot of people believe that either he is too old or too injured to be still playing golf. Do you agree? I absolutely do not. I believe that he can continue to play fabulous golf for a long time to come, but it should not be Groundhog Day with his swing. I mean, something surely needs to change so that he can play with less pain in more events and improve his performance at the same time. But what needs to change? As I mentioned in my previous post, the first thing to look at when analyzing any golf swing is the design based capability of human joints. That is, look at which directions they are designed to bend or twist in and what they are being asked to do. Given all the injuries Tiger has sustained and the lack of movement he has because of fused lower lumbar vertebrae, obviously any swing changes must also be body friendly, and the swing he's always had, every variation of it, has not substantially addressed his issues of either performance consistency or injury. But first, let's look at his stats from the recent 2020 Zozo Championship. You will see that he ranked 37th for driving distance and on top of that, tied 66th for driving accuracy. So, naturally, his much wanted approach to the green was from tough spots, causing that aspect to falter, and so on. Swing related, would you not agree? Now let's look at a picture of his top of backswing from the same event. What do you see from this great and rare camera angle that could be causing erratic and reduced driving distance as well as not great approach shots? Keep in mind that from this position, his downswing must be able to swing the club at great speed and deliver it to the ball from an in to out to in path with a fairly shallow angle of approach and maximum centeredness of contact. Before we continue, try to consider how he will undo the torso and arms positions seen here in time for impact. Now let's do an anatomical analysis. Keep in mind that golfers are typically told to rotate their shoulders about a forward tilted spine. So let's start at the top of his backswing, looking at his shoulders only. The movement is a twist facilitated mainly by shoulder girdle muscles of retraction of the trail shoulder and protraction for the lead shoulder. Let's look at this video of a pro golfer who participated in my dissertation research, and his movement is used here because most pros have similar torso movements. As his shoulder girdle or scapula moves in space, it changes the position of the socket or glenoid fossa of the upper arm. Regardless of where the glenoid points at the top, it must point downwards at impact so that the arm can drop down to deliver the club to the ball on the ground. To have a downward facing scapula, the uncoiling of the shoulders around the forward leaning spine is being interrupted and is only completed at around mid follow through. If the shoulders were in a useful position at the top, the trail shoulder at impact would occupy the position the lead shoulder is in at the top, keeping in mind that the purpose of a backswing is to stretch certain muscles which then facilitate a more forceful downswing contraction in the opposite direction of the stretch. All that's required of a downswing is to have the trail shoulder slightly lower than the lead shoulder at impact, similar to its position at address. Is it not fair to say that the huge rotation of the shoulders about the spine is a rather redundant movement? It is also a dangerous movement, more so for the pros than the amateurs. The amateurs will blithely keep rotating the retracted trail shoulder forward into protraction, leading to an over the top downswing. The professionals, however, spend many years perfecting a movement that will not result in an over the top downswing. They do so by rapidly rotating the pelvis to face target. This movement is achieved by firing the tail side hip external rotator muscles and is not an easy movement to make during the limited time of the downswing. It is also not easy because in any typical top of backswing position, the pelvis is not level. Also, the pros maintain the spine in forward tilt in order to avoid early spinal extension, which they believe is an amateur's mistake. When put together, trail side butt rotation is a complex movement and requires excessive force. Learn more about that in my previous blog posts. Once the pelvis does spin open, its plane shallows, so the trail side bend of the torso must steepen even more to make the scapula face the ground and be able to deliver the club to the ball on the ground. For Tiger, this rapid trail side glutes firing causes immense problems. Torso side bend and rotation together affect the lumbar spine dramatically, causing low back pain and injury. He now already has fused lumbar vertebrae, so that is an important issue, but more importantly, it is not worth the sacrifice to make that painful movement because it also causes the two-way miss that the pros dread. Incidentally, less skilled golfers rarely have to worry about a two-way miss because they simply cannot make a fast pelvis rotation. So here's why the pros have an unpredictable two-way miss. As the pelvis is spun open rapidly to avoid the over-the-top movement, the motion might be so rapid that it precedes weight shift. That results in a bit of a hanging back and allows the club face to open, causing a fade. Conversely, if weight shift does precede hip rotation, the hip rotation can be so excessive it pulls the lead shoulder joint rapidly back and away from the target line with it. When the lead shoulder has rotated too much at impact, the upper arm gets into a position of internal rotation and the forearm into pronation, so the club shaft and club face get rotated closed, hence a draw. When combined with the shaft being intentionally pulled inside the target line, as the pros have been trying to do in recent years, the result is a pull hook. Some club manufacturers actually make clubs that reduce a leftward bias for the more skilled golfers. The typical swing that the pros make is both back unfriendly and causes a two-way miss. Moreover, they often rely on something as ephemeral as feel, which changes from day to day or week to week, which is why they cannot sustain performance from week to week and perform at their very best on a long term basis. Summarizing, the most important issue of a typical pro's golf swing is that the trail shoulder is higher than the lead one at the top of the backswing. It has no benefit, as we discussed earlier. It causes an over the top downswing as it tries to drop the trail scapula down, and the excessive side bend thus created causes lumbar pain. What is needed then is a top of backswing position in which the trail shoulder is practically level with the lead one, not high above it. With such a position, a golfer would get far less pain and less inconsistency, and the far more useful oblique muscles of both sides of the torso could be harnessed to create downswing rotation rather than the trail side glutes. One other crucial factor to incorporate is that whatever torso rotation is required should be made before the backswing begins and must be purely horizontal because then the pelvis will not rotate shallow, forcing a too steep shoulder drop. By pre-rotating the torso, one can position the body's weight more towards target where it can remain throughout the backswing. That way, not making a weight shift never happens and a golfer cannot hang back and slice the ball. This pre-swing torso rotation also helps to keep the torso and trail scapula facing away from target or slightly closed throughout the back and downswings so that the lead scapula does not retract rapidly and cause a pull hook. Also, with such a movement, there is no requirement to add additional, not very productive force to the movement through the trail side gluteal muscles. Remember when Tiger once claimed his glutes would not fire? Downswing torso rotation should be initiated by the trail side external oblique muscle, which is stretched considerably during the backswing. It is a movement that relies more on the stretch shortening capabilities of muscles than on excessive extra force by one specific muscle group like the glutes of the trail side. With the set of movements described, the immediate feedback from users includes, "Ah, what a relief to my back," and "Ooh, what a fine shot." Finally, it is not easy to make every swing change into a pattern that repeats itself, especially under pressure. To make a swing change that sticks, it helps to have physical positions which prevent the bad movements from taking place, because otherwise, well learned movements are difficult to change and tend to reappear, especially under pressure. So, the swing suggested actually locks out a golfer's ability to come over the top. And it does not need a lot of time to learn because the new setup triggers the new backswing, while the downswing is just a let it rip feel because all of the body's joints have been stacked like a stack of dominoes which fall in rapid succession with no interference required. So, should Tiger consider an anatomy based swing change to manage both the limited natural range of motion of his fused vertebrae and his inconsistencies as seen during the 2020 Zozo Championship? If you believe yes, let him know.